I'm just so glad to be back with my queens today. And welcome to the Queens of the DMV, Real Talk and Real Estate. We took a little break, just a little, but we are back. Today we are talking about the lowdown on home appraisals with Chris Jackson. Um, Chris and I used to be together at Keller Williams, but he's still my fave. But today we are talking with Chris Jackson from Jackson Appraisal Group, and we are so glad to have you on today, Chris.
Thank you guys for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. We're gonna get right on in to these appraisal issues that's going on around the world.
Okay. Jump right to it. Okay.
Look, we might as well jump right on into it. So, well, let me let's talk about you first. Can you tell us a little bit about you?
Okay, sure. So, I'm a certified residential appraiser in D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. I have been certified since 2012. I've been in the industry since 2007. That's kind of when I started doing the appraisals. Before that, I was flipping houses. So, I always say that I started my real estate career then. So, in like 2003 is when I bought my first home. Bought that, flipped it, made a couple dollars, and decided that real estate was where I wanted to be. And so, I was flipping houses when things were great and sweet. I moved down to Florida. Was doing it down there for a little bit, and 2007 came and wiped out everything. Like 2007, 2008 came and just wiped out everything. And so at that point, decided to move home and figured out that I love real estate, but I didn't want the risk that came with just investing and flipping homes as a career choice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was just looking through the community college paper one day and saw the appraisal classes. And I remember meeting this appraiser down in Florida where he came and walked through my house for 20 minutes. I handed him a $400 check and I said, I'm in the wrong business. I need to be doing what he's doing. So I didn't know everything that went on behind the scenes, in the appraisal world, but that's what drew me in the door to start with. So that's how I got started. I was lucky enough to find, it was crazy because I told nobody I was taking these classes. And in this industry, you have to have a mentor that you work under for about 2 years, right?
Okay.
So I didn't know that going into the classes. So in the middle of the class, I realized that I need a mentor, and I had no idea where I was going to get this person from. I had to cold call, all these strangers and ask for a job, right? Out of nowhere, an old boss of mine calls me, tells me he wants to have dinner. We sit down, we have dinner. He tells me that his son-in-law is opening an appraisal company. And
wow.
he thought that I'd be a good fit to help him out with that. And did you know I was taking classes? He said, I had no idea. I said, wow. So that was God right there. So that's how I got in the door. Once I was able to get my certified license, I opened up my own company, and here I am, almost 10 years later.
Wonderful.
Yep.
So, Chris, one thing that the viewers might not realize, just because, we're talking about appraisals, is that you are a licensed agent as well, correct?
Correct, I am. So in 2017, I decided to go ahead and get my license after everybody was asking me for help. I was always passing them off to different agents that I knew. And I said, I just might as well just get my license and, and do a couple of these deals myself, at least get a referral fee, something. Right. So yeah, I started at the end of 2017, and then I was 2018 PG Car Rookie of the Year and all that good stuff. So had a good year.
Congratulations. Yes, you
Thank
did.
you.
So in a spinoff question from what I just asked too was basically, how does your knowledge and appraisals help you in your real estate business?
Oh, I'll tell you right now, it's the number one reason why I was successful my first year. It's just because the comfort level of what I call the product, right, of what I'm selling. Right, I know real estate. If you ask me, I know residential real estate like the back of my hand. I know it in and out. This area, I know like the back of my hand. I can spit out zip codes to you. Where you can tell me a street name. I know exactly what. I know exactly what number range you might be in. for the address and everything like that. So I'm extremely comfortable with the subject matter. When I go into listings, I can speak confidently about the value, about how we come to the value. I walk them through that process of what I go through to come up with what, why I think the house might be worth what it's worth. And I also explain the difference between a sales price and an appraised price, right? We know this now. We can see this clear as day now, right? In the market that we're in now, right? Because we know we can sell these houses for almost whatever we want to sell them for, but that doesn't mean that they're going to appraise for that. And so the magic comes in. The magic comes in trying to find the marriage between those two numbers. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what that's the advantage that it's given me, just that kind of the super confidence about what I'm talking about and the product itself.
So Christian, what are some trends you're seeing right now in our areas, the DMV's real estate market, as it relates to listings and appraisals?
Besides all the agents calling me every day, screaming at me.
Well, we want to hear
Right, you want to hear why, right? No, you want to hear
the real.
Right. Yeah, no. It's it's hard because in appraisals we are instructed to use the sales comparison approach, right? So the sales comparison approach is where we're looking at settled comparables to compare it to. Now we're in a market where we don't have a ton of inventory. So, comparables aren't as plentiful as they may have once been. Number two, the market's changing so quickly. If I'm looking at a comp that's 3 months old in a normal market, that's perfectly fine. In today's market, it's like an ancient comp, right? I want something that sold last week so I can see that comparable, So it's hard. It's kind of like that. The market is outpacing the comps, and that's all we kind of got to have to use, right? We can see, sometimes you can see that the house may be worth this, right? If, I always ask the agents for the data that comes from your listing period, right? How many offers did you receive? How many days on market were you, right? Because that kind of gives me an indicator of what the market reacted to this particular home, right? Because the value of a home is what the typical market participant is willing to pay for it, right? Now, it used to be the highest value, but now it's the most probable value that the typical market participant is willing to pay for a home, right? And so if you have 10 offers and you're telling me that one of them was at 300, you're listed at 300, one of them was at 300, 8 of them were at 325, and one of them was at 350, and you took the 351, you took the wrong one, right? Because the house probably isn't worth 350. It's probably worth 325 in that area, in that area. But now,
or did you? Because I'm seeing a lot of differences in that with like having listings and multiple offer situations. So I'll tell you a situation that I had recently. Listed a property at 315. I thought that was a solid number. We received 13 offers on the property. It escalated up to 375. The seller chose a 345 offer. The appraisal came in at 350. So there were no comps to support the appraised value. So what did that make me look like? My client was like, well, why did we list at 315? We should have listed at 350. And I was like, well, no, the comps don't show that. And she's like,
you did the right thing.
Well, she feels like she's being ripped off. She's like, I could have gotten more money,
Well, the seller picked the offer, correct?
Here, you showed her the comps in front of her, correct?
I absolutely showed her.
I know you did. And so you saw 315 and she saw it too. So see, that's the problem that we're having. We're showing them exactly what's in front of us that has sold. We're doing what we're supposed to do as agents, but then we get all these crazy offers, and we can't control that. We just
they should be happy that you were able to sell that property to the appraiser at that price.
Exactly.
You were able to convince the appraiser that the house was worth what it actually contracted for, right? So like I said, the market happens, especially right now, it's happening in real time, right? And
Okay.
so
Hear
and
that.
so right, and so you're looking at comps that show you 315, right? And it's solid as day, 315. But you
Yeah.
put your house on the market today, and the market's telling you it's 350 or 345 or whatever, right? That's what the market told you know. So the market spoke, and then the appraiser was able to be creative or whatever because he probably understood that and he could see where that trend was going. And I don't know if you shared the data with him or not, but he was able to see that the market reacted well to the property and that it was worth probably what somebody was trying to pay for it.
That's exactly it. It's about how the market reacts to your listing or to the sale. So
Right.
for me, that's what I do. I'll list it like how you did, Cher, but I tell my seller, this is the price that I see that's consistent across the board. With I'm very confident that you will get this, but let's see how the market reacts to the listing. And that's how I sell maybe a higher price, or maybe it sells for a higher price, but I don't ever promise that higher price.
Yeah.
Let's see how the market reacts to this sales price.
Yeah, you did the right thing, Cher.
You did the right thing.
We can't.
Well, my story gets a little juicier though.
Oh.
So, so the seller comes back and says, actually, you guys need an extension on this. Well, since the appraisal came back in at 350 and you offered me 345, I'll do the extension if you throw another $5,000 in. I don't care where it comes from, whether it's your commission or whether the buyer is stepping up and giving you.
So I have a problem with that. Who told her that it overappraised?
This is the reason why she shouldn't have known what the appraisal was.
The appraisal price.
She got the appraisal from the lender.
That's interesting because the buyer is the one that pays for the appraisal, and the appraisal belongs to the lender, and they shouldn't be sending it out unless there's an issue.
That's very true, Ariel.
Situation because it's also in Chapter 13, so a lot of other things have to be disclosed because it needs third-party approval.
Okay.
So it's not a standard situation. So she did see that, and renegotiated sales price of $350.
Okay. She got it.
She got it.
Wow.
But
the value
that's an interesting selling.
Still, it's still $315, even though it was appraised at $350.
Wow.
So it's really hard for me when I'm going through these comps because I know what the market is doing. I know how the market is reacting. I know that even though we're listing at certain prices, it's going to go above $315. People are striking appraisals now just to get into a property. They don't care.
Yeah, and a lot of people ask me, well, what happens if someone decides to pay $20,000 over the appraised price just to get the closing? Does that become the comp? It absolutely becomes the comp because that's what somebody paid for it,
exactly.
Right? And so then I don't have any access to any old appraisals and the appraisals from other people. I don't have access to that. I have access to some of their data, but I don't have access to a whole report to kind of show like what something was appraised for. So. No, then it just becomes a comp just like anything else.
Yeah,
so that's why we're able to, that's why you see the values jumping up the way they are because people are doing that and we're able to use those as comps.
Yeah, because whatever the sales price closed at, that's what we're putting it the property. I mean, we don't care how much it went over. That's what we're closed at. So you don't have any idea of who paid over, $20K over that.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't have any idea of that.
Wow.
Is that important information to consider when you're doing the appraisal? Like, should you know if the buyer came to the table with the cash difference?
I haven't really thought about that, but you know what? I think it probably would matter a little bit because is a typical market participant going to pay $30,000 over a low appraisal? Probably not, right? Probably not. So that tells me that okay, well they overpaid for it. I could then say they may have overpaid for that property. Mm-hmm. But I also wouldn't know without looking at the appraisal and kind of seeing how the appraiser came to his value. Just because it appraised at 230 or 330 or whatever doesn't mean that that's actually the I mean, that's his opinion. That's that appraiser's opinion of the property, right? And so I could come in and say, no, I actually think this house is worth 350. What they actually paid for it. Mm-hmm. I can see how you could, so that's another thing is that I don't think that the industry recognizes enough that these appraisals are the value opinion of us professionals. Yes, we have a protocol to follow. We have steps that we need to follow. But at the end of the day, it's my opinion, of what this is. And so the reason why I say that is because I think that sometimes in the process, I feel like that we have more power. We have more power than we should have. In the process, right? And so, hold on one second. I can't hear you guys right now.
Well, what he said, I totally agree. They have too much power.
Hold on. Yeah. There we go. So we put this on DNS.
Do you recommend that sellers get an appraisal before they list their properties?
I do, and in a market like this, I especially do, because it helps you guys being the agents, myself as well, but it helps you guys make the case for what the house is actually worth, right? And so, Cher, if you had an appraisal on, beforehand, and it came out at 315, because that's what the comps are saying, right? Then, then you can say, hey, this is why we priced it this way, right? And why did it appraise at 350? Because the appraiser was able to recognize the real-time reaction to the property. So the pre-listing appraisal, we don't have the benefit of seeing what how the market is going to react to the property, right? On a pre-listing appraisal. But when we're doing an appraisal for the loan, the market's already reacted to the property then we have the luxury of seeing that data, of having that data. And so in a market like this, it's extremely important that the agents provide, the different offers, blackout names or whatever, but just provide it, provide proof that you had these offers, and you had 10 offers in 4 days. That's big. We want to see that.
That's a good tip. I didn't think about that. I only pull that data out if it's low.
Yeah. But then if you think about it, if we do get it beforehand and then it comes back.
Hello?
It comes back lower. Can you hear us, Chris? And then it comes back low, the appraisal, then we're fighting with the new appraisal, that could come back and kill us at the same time, so it's just, it's rough on both ends, if we're fighting with.
I can't hear you guys.
Sorry, you can't.
I'm gonna log out and try to log back in.
Okay. Peter Electric. Yeah, so we're fighting with an appraiser that won't change the value, and then our seller knows that we have a strong appraisal from another appraisal, then that could go bad too.
I see the pros and cons in both situations, but because it's an opinion, opinions are all different. So
that's right.
Someone comes in really strong with their appraisal and they're reacting to the market, so to speak, and it comes in higher, but then you don't get offers at that price point, then it looks bad on us. Now, I have seen situations where sellers just don't believe me, or, one of the agents on my team, even though we're experienced at this, they're like, well, I think that value is really low. I'm going to get an appraisal. And the appraisal comes in higher than what we have suggested. And I'm like, well, where are they getting this data from? Like, I don't get how they're coming up with data where it may be exactly equally square footage. It may be same bedrooms and baths, same general area. Yet they're coming up with a value that's $50,000 to $100,000 more than the comps are showing. So it's like, when do they decide to go, in like a quarter mile out versus 2 miles out? I know appraisals are going to be different than suburban appraisals, but I had an instance where we were praying the whole time that the appraisal came back because we struck the appraisal contingency. But we knew that, what we had offered and what it was going to what it appraised at was going to be very different. And it ended up being just a $10,000 differential. But in my opinion, it shouldn't have been. And the appraiser used a comp from 2.5 miles out.
Yeah.
He's chasing the value.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah. People keep calling. So just coming in on the tail end of that, I got 3 trainees, and I tell them to never chase a value. Right, we don't chase contract prices. Right, the data speaks for itself. If you go out 2.5 miles, 3, 4, 5 miles out, you need to justify why you're doing that. It's perfect. I mean, we do it all the time because we're in spots where there are houses that there aren't a lot of comps in the area, so you got to expand the search. Rural areas, you go 5, 10 miles out, kind of, on a kind of regular basis. So, but if you're in a townhouse community and you're jumping out 2.5 miles
Yeah.
to find a comp, you're looking for values. Is what you're doing, high or low, whatever it is. So,
Right.
So what would you say are some common misunderstandings about appraisals? I know we've been like kind of sprinkling in some of this here and there, but can you give us kind of like just a list, or maybe just point out some things that are some common misunderstandings? And it could be with sellers, it could be with buyers, it could be with us agents. What do you see as a misconception on this topic?
one is that we have access to other people's work, right? Again, like I said, these reports are my opinions. The next appraiser doesn't have access to it. So when you do a refinance, let's just say that appraisal that appraisal is only going to stick with me, the borrower, and the lender. And that's it. It's not supposed to go anywhere else, right? And nobody else is supposed to have any access to it unless the state is asking for it, or the loan is getting switched or something to that effect. But otherwise, I won't have. So when the next appraisal comes 2 years from now, and the appraisal comes in, let's just say lower, right, for whatever reason, then they're going to be like, well, how did that happen? My house appraised for this 2 years ago, blah blah. Like, how did the value go down? And I don't have no idea, right? I have no idea what they did, what comps they used, and what process they used to come to what the conclusion that they came to. So we don't have access to that. The reason why I say that is because right now we're in this climate where we're seeing people being accused of racism and that type of thing because we got 2 different values. But the true story is we don't know what that process either appraiser used, right, to come to the value. So just because one is lower than the other doesn't mean it's wrong, right? We just don't. We just know it's different at this point, and we got to figure out why it's different. But if we don't have
We're
access to
actually
those
going to come
reports,
back
then
to that discrimination topic.
yeah. But just kind of, I
That's
know
a
it's a
big
hot thing
one.
right now. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a hot one right now.
So,
So
question, is it different from using a is there a difference from you doing the refinance appraisal or a home for sale appraisal?
No difference other than what I've already stated is that on the purchase side, we have the benefit of seeing the market actually react to the property,
Okay.
right? When we're refinancing, we're kind of just imagining how the market will react to it, based on the market conditions. But when we're doing a purchase, we can see like how it reacted. In this market, if a house is listed for 20 days on the market, you might as well have been listed for 3 years, right? Because
Right.
and so that's a big story. It's like, okay, well, why was it listed for 20 days?
Right.
Why before you got an offer? So then we look into that. So
I remember when 20 days was fast.
right. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you think it's a good idea for sellers to actually fix their homes up, so to speak, before they get an appraisal? Like, are there things that they can do, in your opinion, that would raise the value without doing like a total renovation, of course, that would raise the value and have their appraisal come up higher versus, just leaving the house as is?
Right. I always say that my staple items, that when people ask me, what can I do to my house to increase value? A lot of the stuff is going to be the big ticket items that you're referencing. It's going to be flooring, kitchen, baths, basement finish. In my opinion, really would help the value, right? If you're just talking about little knickknack stuff, painting always helps, because again, what you're doing is you're working off of somebody's opinion.
Yeah,
Right?
you're setting the table.
Right.
Yeah, to set the table. So you want to make sure that you leave as good of an impression as possible. So if you can do a little painting, definitely clean up. Even though we're not supposed to look at person
Oh.
Even though we're not supposed to look at personal items or anything like that in the home, it plays a role if I'm stepping over dirty diapers, as I'm walking throughout the house, right?
Exactly.
That's what I was
And
kind of
some
alluding.
of the stuff that I see is just kind of incredible. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a client and they decided to do nothing, like not even clean their house before the appraisal. And the appraisal came in under value and literally, the deal fell apart. I was like, okay, now you want to listen to me? They did all of the things that they were supposed to do and then actually cleaned up the house and decluttered. And then the next offer that they accepted, the appraisal was done and it came back $50,000 above.
See.
So I was like,
wow.
they really do too much to it except clean their house and declutter.
Because here's the thing. We have to go off of one of the most subjective parts of the appraisal report is the condition rating, right? And the condition ratings that we're assigned to, and this has only been within the last 10 years, because before we were able to just do average to good, average plus good, whatever,
Yeah.
right? And that was completely subjective. The data was all over the place. So Fannie, Freddie, everybody wanted to get the data centralized. So they created these condition ratings. So condition ratings go from C1 to C6. C1 is new construction. C2 is fresh renovated. Nobody's lived in it. C3 is updated home, very well maintained. Someone's living in there. Kind of the items are being used. C4, it needs some updates, needs some refreshing. C5 is, terrible house, barely livable. C6, tear it down, right?
Wow.
So most houses that people are living in are going to be between a C3 and a C4, right? And so and sometimes you get these houses out of tweeners. You kind of don't know. The kitchen's updated, the baths aren't, the floors are new in this room, the floors aren't downstairs, that type of thing. So a clean house could push you over to the C3 realm, which will change the comp selection, right?
Mhm.
As opposed to it going to a C4 and now you're choosing lower comps, right?
Mhm.
And so, with the house is freshly renovated, it's pretty cut and dry. But when you're using, when you're in those tweener houses, those ones that are, can kind of go either way, you want to make sure you leave the best impression as possible. And cleaning up the house is a good one.
All our clients out there, y'all hear that?
So another big one too is smells. Like, it doesn't need to smell like mildew, water, anything like that. That's going to send off a sign, that there's water damage. And then also just basic smells like pet smells, food smells, stuff like that. I mean, we're addressing this way before the appraisal anyway, as agents. When we do the consultation and we're talking to our customers about listing the house, these are things that we talk about. We want them to declutter and tidy up way before they get to the appraisal. But before the appraisal, we're also reminding them again, try to keep your house in this condition for the next month or two.
Yeah.
So that we can get through this process.
Yeah.
But smells, oh my goodness, like that's a big one too.
Yeah.
And I always say curb appeal. If you're pulling up to do an appraisal and it doesn't look good on the outside, that's the first impression.
Yeah.
That's your first impression. Oh, this house is about to be terrible. You know what I mean? So the front and the curb appeal matters as well. Even though it doesn't contribute to the value, it contributes to the opinion of the person who's coming up with the value.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's why I always say flooring as a head of like kitchen and bath and that type of thing. When I said flooring, kitchen, bath, basement, I kind of do it in that order because the flooring follows me throughout the house. So subconsciously, I'm looking at these new floors, and that's making my opinion feel better. If I go in, I got new floors, and I got a kitchen that needs to be updated, versus a kitchen that's updated, and I got cat stained floors throughout the house, right? I'm gonna look more favorably on the house with the new floors than I am with the one with the cat stain and the new kitchen.
So Chris, does this hardwood floors give you more of a value than carpet?
It's an upgrade feature, right? And again, it's something that is going to play more in the quality of construction and the condition rating of the property. There's no line item where we're saying carpet versus hardwood. I mean, some agents could, and I have done it before, where you kind of put your own line item in there if the differences are so close. And then you have, let's just say you have two townhouses, both of the same model, same everything, apples to apples, except one is hardwood and one is carpet. And then you see that the one that for hardwood sold for a little higher, then you're going to want to make that adjustment for hardwood versus carpet, because we know that in this market, hardwood is more favorable than carpet in today's market.
Okay.
Right? That may not have been in the 60s. In the 60s, carpet would have got the go ahead. Right?
And laminate.
For that. Right. And laminate, right. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to get into the burning part of this conversation. There's been a lot of social media, hence what's going on in the world today and everything that's happening in our society right now. We have been seeing some stuff on social media, news, different things like that, and just personal experiences. Do you believe that African American sellers are discriminated against on home value at all? And not just African American, we can just say,
right.
People of color.
Yeah, I don't. That's a deep question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I think do I think that appraisers at mass are undervaluing African American homes? No, I don't think that. I think that we have processes in place that kind of help us avoid putting our opinions that way, but are there racist appraisers out there? I'm sure there are. It's like in every other part of society we have, in every other industry that we have, right? So the problem though is bigger than appraisals. It's way bigger than the problem is 50, 60, 70, 80 years in the making, right? When FHA comes out with loan requirements that say that they won't lend to, not only will they not lend to African American, but they won't lend to a white person who is living in a community that has one African American living in there. Or if they're living in a neighborhood that's next to a neighborhood with an African American living there without a barrier wall in between the two neighborhoods, right? So what that means is that you're cutting off access to a whole group of people to funding for them to be able to acquire property, new construction properties that were happening back in the 40s and 50s and everything like that. Levittown was a big example of that, where we just didn't have access to hop in and participate in the market, right? And so that gives a 50-year head start to everybody. So then the prices in those neighborhoods are naturally going to be higher than the neighborhoods in which we were put in, right? Or which we end up getting put into. So I think, and that's just one part of the problem. I mean, I think that the issue is so deep that we can't even begin to scratch the surface. But the reason why appraisers get hit with it is because of the method that we use. We use sales comparison approach. And so it's all about the comps. It's all about the comps. And if the comps are lower and have historically been lower, and there's a stigma with the area, right, for whatever reason, then that's where they're going to be, right? I mean, someone who's living in Bethesda right now, they're probably not going to move to Landover. There's a 0.2% chance that that's happening, right? So yeah, it's a deep going
on.
Something's going on though.
Because I mean, we're seeing it in the news. We're seeing what's going on in the news. I mean, I have my clients are starting to say, okay, well, do we need to take down all of our pictures in the house? Yes, you do.
Right. And I hate that. And I hate that's a conversation. Yeah, I hate that that's a conversation. That's the thing. But I wouldn't probably advise against it either. I would just, out of precaution, because you don't know who's going to pop up at your door, right? And in this climate and where we're in today, the two sides are just so starkly different. You just never know who's going to pop up. So the other thing about it is that the appraisal industry is kind of touching on what I said earlier, is how you need to have a mentor coming in the door. So a lot of appraisers are second and third generation appraisers, right? They come into the business because their dad was, an appraiser, their uncle was an appraiser, and they get taught by them. Well, if granddad was an appraiser, he was an appraiser at the time where it was part of, like, let's just say FHA regulations to discriminate. Like, you have to take off because there's a black person in this community. You have to, give a deduction because of that, right? And so, I just feel like inherently that just, it just kind of trickles down, So, yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's there. I think that some things need to be put in place to kind of help circumvent, the opportunities for that to happen. We need to eliminate the opportunities for that stuff to happen.
So
but I also feel like the appraisal industry, I don't feel like it's diversified. I don't see enough appraisers of color, to be honest. You're one of the ones that I know, but I mean, just generally speaking, right. I've been in this business for 15 years and I haven't come across many appraisers of color or diversification.
The last stat I saw was 4% of appraisers in this country were African American. And I think it was like 6% were, were of Hispanic heritage. So, and then everything else was lower than that. And it was like 89, 90% was, white. And so, the average appraiser is a white 58-year-old male or something like that, in this country, in the whole country. Metropolitan areas, the numbers are going to jump a little bit, right? So this area, I feel like we're higher than 4%. I know a few, African-American appraisers. I will say, however, though, there is, this conversation is happening, across, multiple platforms. And I've been getting more inquiries now about how to become an appraiser and what steps I need to take now than I ever had from young Black, men and women. And so it is encouraging to see that people are being exposed to the industry. I think those stories kind of have, an unintended positive effect, with it getting out there like that, and people realizing that we need more representation, and people are starting to hop on that.
How do you feel when a agent sends you comps before you actually do the appraisal? Are you offended by that? Do you think that's helpful? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm never offended by it. First of all, you have a job to do. Your job is to represent the seller, and you're trying to convince me that the house is worth, what the contract is. That's your job. I should never take anything personal, get offended by it. I know appraisers that have, so I understand why that's a question. But but you shouldn't. You shouldn't at all.
I think that's your realtor hat, Chris. I think that's your realtor hat.
I was going to say, because I do that all the time.
I've been cursed out before giving comps.
I've never had an appraisal that was mad that I gave them comps either, though.
I
have.
Really? You got cursed out.
You did?
Yeah. I won't say his name on here. I won't say his name on here. But he went off on me.
Oh, I've never had it. And
what did he say?
Tell me to send it.
You think I don't know this area? I said, well, I did look at your credentials. You're coming from Annapolis, sir. This house is in Prince George's County. I'm just, helping you out just in case you need some assistance with my community where I live at, because you're coming from Annapolis.
See, Cher,
it's an hours of change away from where this house is. Maybe 2 hours, depends on if you live across the bridge or whatever. I'm just helping you out because, this is Prince George's County. You're over there in Chesapeake, Annapolis area. Like,
that's valid. It's valid.
That's it. I'm looking at where you're coming from, and I feel like if you're appraising the area in which you live in and where you're going to take pride in it a little bit more. Your opinion's going to feel stronger. It's where you grew up. It's where you're raised. That's what you know. That's you're familiar with it. So I feel like our Prince George's County appraisers, then this is the area that I predominantly work in, feel a little bit more strongly about their community, and they do appraise the homes higher traditionally with my listings and sales than someone who's coming from a different location to appraise the home. And I'm just keeping it real.
I think that you have very valid points, and I think part of it also is that when you grow up in the area, you know exactly what to look for. You know what other communities are comparable to this community, and which ones aren't, right? Because
Right.
you can go, we can be in Oak Creek, right, looking at houses, and then you can draw your radius. I'm going to compare a house in Beach Tree to an Oak Creek before I compare a Perrywood to an Oak Creek.
Mhm.
Right. If you guys understand the
That makes
neighborhood.
sense.
So, right. But if I'm coming from, Cecil County, I don't know any of that, you know?
Okay.
Right. You know what I
And I
mean?
was
So,
very polite, but I said,
Good.
hi, I'm just giving you this just in case, you might need any information. If you have any questions about the listing, let me know. He went off. He was like, I can't believe that you would send me this. I know my job. You're trying to undermine and demean me. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm
that's a
just
red
helping
flag.
out. I'm just
Yeah.
helping out. And by the way, what time are
I'm
you going to
calling the
be at the
lender.
house?
Did
'Cause I'm
your
going to meet you
appraisal come in
there.
good, Ariel? Did your
Huh?
appraisal come in good on that one?
No, it came in low because he was mad at me.
I was about to say you messed. That was already.
So now I got to kiss ass before the appraisal, and make sure I don't, piss somebody off prior to,
I'm
because that
contacting
contributes to the
I'm
factor
contacting the
of the
lender.
appraised value.
Yeah, I'm contacting the lender as soon as that happens, before it comes in low,
So you
and
would recommend that?
putting them on notice. This is what happened.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
Just so you know, and have a pretty good feeling it's probably going to come in low because of this, right? And when
yep.
it comes in low, just know that I'm going to have a formal complaint put out, and you know, Ariel, I know you know what to do.
Oh,
But,
listen.
but
I'm the queen of disputing appraisals, and I
right,
win them.
Me too.
Me
that's
too.
good.
I can put a whole package together for your ass.
Right,
Probably
right,
like, oh, here goes Cher again.
Right,
Exactly.
right. It's
That's
a whole
funny.
method to the madness, but I'm really just
No,
fighting on behalf of my client. And who doesn't want their home to appraise for a good value?
Yeah.
You know what
right,
I'm saying? So at the end of the
right,
day, like, it's very legal, and it's very professional to assist in this process. I'm also showing up to the appraisal. Hi, what time are you going to be there? I'll meet you there and open the door for you.
right,
Definitely.
right,
No.
right.
And I'm
So,
providing comps at that time when I do meet you at the property,
right,
face to face, because you can't cuss. You're not gonna cuss me out face to face. Over the phone, you probably will. But
right,
now I've transitioned to just giving you that appraisal. Giving you those comps right in your face. Face to face.
right, right. Yeah, I
So
mean, the agents that I appreciate the most are the ones that take me through the comps that they did, and they're explaining why, right? Because sometimes I can actually get some good, valuable information, right?
Right.
This one, the pictures look decent, but I actually went through this house and it had a cat smell in there, and that's why I sat on the market for this long, or whatever, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
something that I might not be able to see in the pictures. That's
It
information that
would meet you there too to
right
say,
to say
yeah.
this stuff. Yeah, so I appreciate that. I also want to know why you priced the house the way you did, right? And
mhm.
so you provide me those comps will let me see that. I respect the agents out here. You guys are professionals, right? You're professionals just like I am. You have your license just like I do. You're out here in these neighborhoods every day, right? And it's probably more so in the neighborhood in which we're appraising, right? Because me, I can be in Sterling, I can be in Waldorf and in Springfield, in a day, right?
Mhm.
But you guys are going to be more hyper focused on your areas, and what you're working on. And so I'm going to expect you to know your area, and I would love to hear your opinion on it, and why you priced the house the way you did. So it's all about presentation, and kind of just reading the room, I guess. Like when you're meeting the appraisers, kind of trying to figure out you know where to meet him at, so you can kind of communicate what you need to communicate to him effectively. But it's
Stroke the ego a little bit, Ariel, before you, oh, I heard such great things about you. You're amazing. And then slide your comps in.
Right.
I do
Right.
have a
butter him
burning,
up a little bit.
yeah, exactly. I do have a burning question, and it's for me, and it's a little sneaky, but so I purchased my primary residence about 3.5 years ago. It was a foreclosure. It is listed a certain way in the tax record that's actually not true. in terms of bedrooms and bathrooms and all that. And even the square footage is wrong in the tax record. Not sure if it's because the previous owner did extensive renovations and they just didn't update in the system. But the the tax value and the appraised value are probably going to be very different. Now, as an appraiser, are you looking at what's in the tax record and then before you come to do the appraisal? And if you are, once you do the appraisal, is that going to change my tax assessment?
So no, it won't. No, because again, the appraisal is between me, you, lender, right? And so I mean, what is something that might trigger? I don't know if the mortgage amount gets recorded and someone in the office notices it and then maybe flags it or something. I don't know, but unless that a report gets provided to the state for the purposes of a tax appeal or something like that, then you won't have to worry about it. The renovations could have been done. I don't know when the renovations were done. It sounds like more than 3 years ago because you bought it 3 years ago.
Right.
But the values go in 3-year cycles, right? They do what's called mass appraisals, right? And they'll assign a value for 3 years in advance. So they'll go, for, let's just take this year, they're going to do it. Let's just say 2021, they'll assign a value. 2022, they'll assign another value. 2023, they'll assign another value. So if you do the renovations, all these extensive renovations in 2022, unless somebody opens up a tax appeal, on you, they're probably going to, or if it's new construction or something like that, you probably won't reset until they reassess the homes, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So if you're just doing stuff inside the house, you're not doing anything, you're not doing new construction or anything like that needed plans and stuff like that, then they probably won't update until it gets reassessed. But if they missed it, just keep quiet, like don't say anything.
Well, that's what I plan to do.
Yeah.
So last question, and this is kind of a funny one. I'm a seller, and you did an appraisal on my home, and let's just say, I looked up on Zillow and it said that my home, my Zestimate is what it's called, is $500,000, but your appraisal said $415,000. What are you saying to that seller that has called you up to get nasty with you about that?
What day and time did Zillow walk to your house? Right? I mean that's a big thing. I mean, Zillow takes the values in the area, they throw it into one big ball of data soup, and then they pop out a value for each home. And some in townhouse community, cookie cutter, it could be spot on. But again, they haven't been inside the house. You don't know if the house has been completely renovated. You don't know if it's you don't know if it's a dump or what, right? And so I tell people, just don't rely on it. I told somebody today, my house, Zillow said it. I said, don't listen to Zillow. Before she can even get it out, I said, don't even listen. She said, what? Yeah. Really? I said, Zillow is a marketing, machine. And that's what they're doing. They're trying to drag you in there to kind of, keep you posted, right, to see kind of where your values are going. And if you want to see an overall trend, I mean, I think, they can kind of give you an overall trend that the housing market's going up. Okay, well, everybody can give you that too. It's kind of very obvious. So, don't, the estimates, the stuff that Redfin gives you, the stuff that Realtor.com puts on there, House.com, whoever is estimating your house without walking in there, it's not going to be accurate. It's not, it's a good chance that it's not going to be accurate. So that's why I don't ever think that we're going to go to a complete AVM model, automatic valuation model. Because you always need that human element to walk in. What algorithm is going to tell us that, back to this cat smell, right? That there's this cat smell in this house, and it's going to affect the price. I say that because I had a personal thing with a cat situation.
Oh man,
I was know about this. What happened to you with the cat?
I know that story.
This is before I was a realtor, and I was flipping a house, and the lady was a hoarder. And she apparently at some point, I knew she had like a couple cats, but apparently the buyers found out before we went to closing that she had maybe like 20 cats at some point, and so the place was just, I mean, and I've never dealt with a house that was, had cat urine throughout like this, and or kind of at all. But cat urine, I know now, is probably the strongest odor to get, like, you can't get rid of it. It's like pneumonia. It's, you just can't. Dog, fine, you can get rid of that. Any other animal, cats, for whatever reason, it's in the bones of the house. It's sitting in the concrete, type of stuff. So, learn the hard way on that. Yeah, learn the hard. It took us forever to kind of to renovate it and fix it up. And mind you, we bought the house in December, so the start of winter, right? And by the time we sold it, it was like early April, and I guess we didn't get it all, because after settlement, that smell came right back. As soon as that heat started coming in the spring, the weather started changing, it came right back. And so, yeah, that's something that, you definitely, like, who's going to look at that listing and say that, this was affected by that, so you're always going to have people, you're always going to have the need for humans to walk through and make an assessment. Yeah. So that one, the cat thing is that's a sore spot for me.
Well, we're going to wrap up here. Is it anything, any last thing that you want to, mention to anybody out?
Share your socials with everybody, Chris.
Linda. I'm grindtime_real estate. So at GRINDTIME _real estate on Instagram. You can find me on Facebook, Chris Jackson. Just Google me. You can find me. My cell phone, if you want to order an appraisal and talk about it, 202-409-4850. I never mind giving it out. So I appreciate the opportunity, guys. I hope some people hear it and get interested in the industry. And if you're interested in becoming an appraiser, also give me a call. I can point you in the right direction. We can only take on 3 trainees at a time, so I have 3 right now, but I can definitely point you in the right direction to kind of get you going.
Oh, that's awesome! I love it. Well, thanks again, Chris Jackson with Jackson Appraisal Group. Thank you for joining the Queens of DMV. And as always, subscribe to the Queens of the DMV on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right.